today. A thank you to all of you for watching the videos and leaving your comments behind. So today we are talking on a very beautiful subject of the dasha avatars and how they are very important. These avatars are very critical. Had they not been critical for astrology in the BPHS, that is the Brihat Parasar Pura Shastra, Parashar Rishi would not have mentioned the correlation between the planets and the Dashavatar in the second chapter itself. This gives us a point to pay great attention as to why these have been mentioned in the second chapter itself. The Navagrahas and the Dashavatars have a clue on how the planets can behave for us and what we can learn and how we can modulate these planets so that we lead a very beautiful and a fulfilling and an enriching life. So let's move on to the Dasha avatars. With the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, as per BPHS, chapter number 2, the moon god the moon is said to be an incarnation, or Lord Krishna is said to be the incarnated form as relating to the moon god. For the moon, there is a very beautiful shloka dedicated in the Navagraha Stotras. The Navagraha Stotras, as I keep on repeating and will keep on repeating for all the 9 planets that we do in tandem, that these Navagraha Stotras have to be practiced every day to lead and inculcate the habits of all these planets. So in the Navagraha Stotra, there's one verse which is dedicated to the moon. Dadisham Tusharabham Shirodarnav Sambhavam Namami Shashinam Shomam Shambor Mukut Bhushanam. So here the eulogy is to pray to that moon who has been who had come out of the churning of the ocean and who has such a cool persona like that of the curd and the milk, and who has a hair on him, and who also is the crowning glory of Lord Shiva's matted hair. The planet moon defines a lot of things. The planet moon is, as per Uttar Kalamrita, I keep saying that Uttar Kalamrita is the book if you want to learn the karakas of each planet. So therein you find around 40 to 50 karakas for moon itself. The mind, the imagination, it also represents beauty, natural beauty, flowers, good perfumes, the kapha, vata and pitta of them, the 3 doshas. Kapha relates to moon, mental disposition, a very, very important point. The mind and the mental, the state of the mind, both are given by the moon. The feelings, because the heart and the mind are both connected to the moon. The motherly feelings and all those things. The 4th house is connected to mother. The 4th house is of the natural zodiac, belongs to the moon. Virtues or vices, that is, these are the attributes of one's mind, and they also fall under the jurisdiction of the moon. How we behave in a certain situation, which virtues and which vices come out when we are subjected to a certain situation, or the effect of the moon. Worshipping goddess Gauri and nourishment, that is the kind of food that we eat. Let's not forget that moon gets exalted in the 2nd house of the natural zodiac. Learned, because 2nd house is also related to learning. So the moon becomes extremely adaptable to taking up any form of learning. Clean crystals, soft and velvet clothes, silks and garments. This is between moon and the karakas of moon. Now let's have a good look on Lord Krishna and moon. There are a lot of things that are very common between Lord Krishna and moon. Now, moon has a big family, huge family. Moon was married to 27 daughters of Daksh Prajapati, who are also known as the nakshatras, the lunar mansions, and Lord Krishna had a huge family still, a bigger family still, 16,108 queens, of which 8 of them were the royal consorts. Lord Krishna is the protective force in everybody's life. Lord Krishna came as a savior to whoever called him, be it in form of a husband for Rukmini, be it in form of a friend for Draupadi. The 16,100 queens, they called him as they called him as their savior. They wanted to be saved from Narkasur, and that is why he came up as the savior for all of them, gave them protection, gave them their his name, and gave them proper place in society. His friend Sudama, who had nothing in life, he was a very well-known Brahmin, albeit he was a very, very poor Brahmin. Lord Krishna came as a true friend in his life, bestowed him with so much wealth in return of just two handful of puffed rice that Devi Rukmini had to hold his hand and tell him that please don't eat the third round, or else I would have to personally go and stay in his house. That was his generosity. The moon also, when we talk about a mother, which is so closely, we've seen just ahead that mother and motherly feelings are associated with the moon. They can never ever be any force in our personal lives which is a more which can be more protective than a mother. It is said that if a mother does uh, a kavach or a puja for us to save us from any problems, any adi vyadi as it is called, any obstacles in our life, that is very quickly accepted by the devtas, and she becomes a great force of protection for us. So we see that Lord Krishna and moon are operating on such a very strong level, at the intricate values are so very same. Now when change, moon is there's a constant change in moon, the fastest moving planet covering the entire zodiac in 27 and a half days. And we know that the moon in 27 and a half days undergoes 30 kind of it changes in itself. There are 16, it moves through from Krishna Paksh to Shukla Paksh. It changes its shape and form 16 times and then back again another 16 times. So we know that it is quite changing. And when you see, when you talk about Lord Krishna, when you read his stories, we know adaptability was one of the key features of this Yug Purush. He wanted to break the old obsolete ideas, the obsolete ideologies that had set into society, and reform society such that there was the lost respect of the women was restored. There was less violence towards the caste system. People were more friendly with each other, and the things that were wrong in society and needed a change was a place where he wanted to move in and bring about change at the cost of its own self, like the mother who takes the blame on herself, or who is ready to accommodate the child in a way that she suffers a lot of problems. Similarly, Lord Krishna had been the one to instigate change and also taken a lot of uh, things on himself even when he did not do it. When we are talking about allegations, when we are talking about taking a lot on yourself, Lord Krishna, we know that Samyanta money, that is one of the biggest and the brightest jewels that was talked about in those days, and which had ability to shower a lot of wealth on the person who had it from sunrise till sunset, was such a talked about money that Lord Krishna requested the owner of that money, Surajit, who was living in Dwarka at that time, to give it for the peacekeeping and wealth making of Dwarka. Surajit refused. And when he had given this money, this jewel to his brother, Prasannaji, brother had, due to circumstances happening, gone to forest and lost the money and his life in the process, lost the jewel and his life in the process. Krishna was blamed for stealing it and having killed Prasannaji. Now, a very, very strong-minded Lord Krishna went out on search of the killer and to discover the truth. So there was a false allegation on him, and as a result, it so happened that we see that Krishna was able to come out of it. He was in the process. He also ended up marrying Jambati, and he also married Surajit's daughter Satyabhama. A lot of things happened, but finally Krishna was able to get rid of that allegation, and he also got that jewel for Dwarka. So we see that people are such people can have a very strong moon. They can face a lot of allegations, but they will come out very beautifully for that, and they will be victorious, and they will be very happy with that. Now, we see the similar case in case of one of the nakshatras, Rohini Nakshatra, which is in the scheme of Vimshotri Dasha, ruled by moon. Lord Brahma is said to have an incestuous relationship with his own daughter Usha, and that in many stories there is a sense of condemnation towards Lord Brahma for having such feelings in spite of being a god. But if you read the Vishnu Puran, therein is very categorically stated that Lord Brahma was the creator, or so he was defined to create the entire universe. And knowing the fact that over a period of time there will have to be relationship between the genders, which was not just a mental relationship but a physical relationship to produce the future generation. And for that, Lord Brahma himself would have to set the path. So he did it with that intent, and it is so very categorically mentioned in the Vishnu Puran. So later on, there is a clarification about that, but the Devatas at that single moment when Lord Brahma pursued Usha, there was a lot of halabu, and the Devatas were aghast. Devatas were very angry at that very moment, as we see a connection between Rohini Nakshatra and ruled by moon, and we also see Lord Krishna's abilities, or Lord Krishna's false allegation. We also see that Hasta Nakshatra, another one nakshatra which is ruled by Lord Krishna, by moon, has the ability to give you dexterity with your hands. Anything that you do would be very creative. You would be becoming you could become a writer, you could become a painter, you could become a good musician. Any of these things, these abilities are very much seen with people having key planets in Hasta. And we know that Lord Krishna was an ace musician. In most of the forms that we worship Lord Krishna, it is with him singing. Another very beautiful point that you would know is Hasta has a very strong love and affection for domesticated animals. And in the north, Lord Krishna is known as Lalla, or he's also north of India, he's also known as he's known as a cowherd who had immense love and affection for his cattle. So there again we find the nakshatras also reflecting of the moon, also reflecting great deal of qualities of Lord Krishna. And not to forget Shravana Nakshatra, where the embodiment or the deity itself is Lord Vishnu, and he has the ability to listen, to be smiling, to be mysterious. And these qualities are the very qualities that Lord Krishna is known about. So many qualities, and that is probably one of the reasons why Rishi Parashar wanted us to go in detail about the nakshatra, about Lord Krishna and the Dashavatar or the Navagrahas. So if you find all these things in your charts, do write to us, do let us know, do apply these on your charts. Rohini Nakshatra. I would like to be specific about Rohini Nakshatra. in Rohini Nakshatra, there is a segment that is the second pada of Rohini Nakshatra is a Vargottama pada. It is right there in Taurus in the Navamsh. Also, it is a part of the Pushkar Bhaga. So, if there is a planet in that particular zone, that gives immense stability to the mind. Also, it gives a person appearance which is very beautiful. It gives a person affluence in life. And we see that as the moon starts growing from Amavasya to Purnima, it starts getting brighter and brighter. And with Lord Krishna, it also so happened that as he grew up, his Shakti, or that is his name, fame, started rising up greatly in life. So there's so many things. Again, when we see a connection between Lord Krishna and the um, and the moon, there's a very beautiful point that wherever moon sits, when moon sits with a benefic, it becomes, because it's a watery sign, it adapts to that sign, and it also gives color of its own to that sign. So if Venus and moon are sitting together, it brings about a creativity in a person. It gives rise to a very creative and a very fertile mind. When Jupiter and moon are sitting together, it gives a mind which is very sharp, which is very wise, and it is very straightforward, would always do things which are jurisprudence. When moon and Mercury are sitting together, it gives a person a very plump and yet a very comical and yet a very young appearance, and a very comical, extremely sharp, extremely sarcastic, but a very beautiful tongue also, which can get away with sarcasm without hurting others. So all these things we also see in Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna could make friends with his sister's son, that is Abhimanyu. He was best friends with Abhimanyu's father, his own friend, that is Arjuna, and Arjuna's grandfather was a devotee, and Lord Krishna had a lot of respect, lot of love for Bhishma Pitama also. So we can see that he has the ability to be friends with all generations. He also has the ability to be friends with all genres of people, be it Sudama, or be it Bhishma Pitamaha, be it his childhood friends from Vrindavan, or be who were very, very simple-minded, or be it Uddhavji, who was said to be one of the most philosophical and very, very intelligent wise men of Mathura and Dwarka. So his ability to converse, his ability to adapt to anything and everybody is well known. And the moon also has the ability of adaptation. We have seen even physically the moon adapts to its change in form very easily, coming back between Amavasya and Purnima with regular intervals. And so it is seen in the chart of Lord Krishna. Another thing that we need to understand about the moon and Lord Krishna, and you can apply it in your charts, that Lord Krishna and the moon, as I said, about adaptability, but there is also change. And the moon is said to be, in Sanskrit, there is a shloka, there is a verse, there is a phrase, Chandrama Manso Jatak. That means the mind and the feelings. The mana actually has no correlation in English, so I would just take it as feelings. Are the moon is a representation of your feelings, of your mind, and your sentiments. So they are forever changing. But what Lord Krishna taught was that if you can be, Lord Krishna gave a very playful personality to the very end. He was always able to convey, he had always been able to convey the best of the feelings with a lot of the best of the teachings with a lot of play and ease. While we were doing the sun and we saw Sri Ram, he was always a very staid, very simple, and yet a very sober representation of the sun god. Whereas as the moon is a very playful and is always forever changing, Lord Krishna was always forever being a playful personality. Nevertheless, his way of teaching was very different, and playfully he taught us a lot of things. When the mind is detached, Moon had a lot of problems in his life. He was cursed by his father-in-law, and he also had to face a lot of problems of his because he had a lot of attachment for Rohini. That is the one that led to him being cursed by by Daksh Prajapati. And Lord Krishna shows exactly that he represented the fact that you have to be detached in spite of seeing all his family members dying at the last during the last few hours of before his death. He saw and he knew 20 years ago, since 20 years he had known that his family would meet a very disastrous end. Yet however, he did not buckle down under pressure. He remained detached, knowing that this was something very destined, and he knew that he had set forward the work he had come to do, and it was time for him to go back to his loka, the golok. So detachment was something that Lord Krishna had practiced throughout, knowing that his uh, sister's son would be sacrificed in the war. That he also sacrificed Ghatotkach for saving Arjuna. He also sacrificed um, his sister's son, that is Abhimanyu, for saving, knowing what to do when, keeping a sharp focus, knowing how to conduct, was something that came to him through detachment. And the moon suffered because of attachments. So the mind, as Lord Krishna says, has to be detached to give it a right ending and to be able to do things in a very proper manner. So let us take a few charts that will give us an effect to this. The first chart that I take up is the chart of a of a prime minister, late prime minister of India, late Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. We see in this chart that the moon is present in the eighth house. The eighth house, as we know, is the house of change, sudden change, transformations, and a lot of happening, certain events happening that can bring about a major change in a person's life. Moon is also the lord of the ninth house being the house of jurisprudence, ninth house being the house of judgment, ninth house being the house of dharma and higher education. We see that Lal Bahadur Shastri ji, during the World War II, it so happened that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose called for an army to be formed so that that moment could be used to defeat the British and to drive them out of the colonies, especially India. Now, Gandhiji also used the same movement to start the Quit India movement or Bharat Chodo Andolan, and he also gave in the spirit of the movement, he gave a slogan, the slogan being "Do or die, karo ya maro," taking the situation which was fraught with tensions, taking in account the very sensitive timing and the situation. What Lal Bahadur Shastri ji quickly did was, with his presence of mind, turned the slogan into do, but and don't die but do, or karo maro nahi karo, that is don't die, do, creating a very strong energy of doing something for the country in the hearts of the countrymen, giving them a courage, in infinite sense of courage to each and everyone, which brought about a wave, which brought about a tsunami of energy to do something for the nation, and brought about a great change to fight and get the country in their own hands. This is with a quick thinking. Now let us have a very quick look at the placement of the moon. We know it is placed in the, I have always maintained that the houses are important, but the sign and the nakshatra are no less important, because they impart you with the intrinsic qualities of how the planet is going to behave and bring about pinpoint accurate prediction. When we see the sign is Gemini. Gemini is the sign of communication. Communication skills have to be very straight, have to be such that the person should be able to deliver without creating problems. Now, and to give rise to energy. Now, revolutionary spirit is a very strong form of Adra Nakshatra in which this moon is sitting. To fight against injustice is a very strong um, part of Adra Nakshatra. And knowing that what the British were doing to India was something absolutely against the grain of justice, and Lal Bahadur Shastriji had forever stood by that. So he was able to ingrain a sense of revolution in his people, to fight in the minds of the people again, because we work from the mind. What happens in the mind finds its expression on the outside. And so he was able to convince people in a very beautiful manner not to die, but to do, and do it that you achieve greatness in your country and the world, and in your own hearts, that you have had the ability to do something for the country. We should, when we're doing this, we should also see an aspect. Is there any benefic aspect that will lend to a very, very beautiful color to that planet? All in all, this eighth house of sudden change, revolution, works so much in favor of Lal Bahadur Shastriji. Again, in 1965, it so happened that India and Pakistan went into war. 3 years earlier, under the tutelage of the late Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, India had already lost very badly a war with China. So the morale of the soldiers was at its lowest, but with the inspiration and a very strong leadership of Lal Bahadur Shastriji, India not only won the war with Pakistan, but was able to prove its supremacy in the Shimla summit and get a lot out of that. So this talks about a mind which is very firm, which is very dedicated, and a mind which is very sharp and very tuned in, able to do a lot of things. Let us talk about Richard Gere. In here, I would also like to show you a mind which is so much in, or the moon, which is so much has the ability of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna never fought a battle, the battle of Kurukshetra, but it was him, it was because of him that a battle which seemed losing to the Pandavas in favor of the Kauravas was ultimately won with by the Pandavas with so much of glory and so much of name and fame. In fact, it gave a lasting name and fame to the Pandavas that the name exists as the victorious ones to do this day. So we see such a beautiful turn of effect of Lord Krishna in this moon over here. Let us also take up the chart of Richard Gere. In the chart of Richard Gere, we see that the moon is present in the fifth house, and it is present in Jeshta Nakshatra. As I keep saying, we would always be taking the house, the nakshatra, and the sign. The sign here is the sign of Scorpio. So Scorpio, we know, is very famous for the diseases which are recurring, diseases which take a long lasting, which take a lot of time to be over. Now, unrelentlessly, Richard Gere has worked towards awareness in the field of AIDS. This is AIDS, as we all know, is a very, very strong disease, or it's such a disease which has not found a breakthrough till yet, and there needs to be a lot of awareness about it, because people treat it with a lot of, people don't see it properly, or don't, they have a lot of misconceptions about it. And AIDS awareness is something that Richard Gere is very dedicated in his work towards. So as Lord Krishna was very dedicated in bringing about change in the system, in the society, breaking through the old knowledge which was obsolete, breaking through the old traditions which had lost their ground and were just moving ahead because people were not willing to let go of them. So here we see Richard Gere working towards it. We also see that Lord Krishna had brought in a lot of awareness to people about the injustice that had happened to so many people, the women folk especially, and other men, through the societies, higher strata of societies. And we see Richard Gere fighting for a very small country like Tibet, and the autocracies of China on Tibet, or Buddhism for that matter, and working, facing that issue throughout, standing tall about it, even in the UN, in the UNICEF, peacemaking countries, and garnering a lot of favor in for Tibet, for Dalai Lama, and also for the Buddhist nations and Buddhism. So we see, in spite of just being one man to start with, fighting for that religion, he has now lot many supporters, just like Lord Krishna started out by just one person trying to fight what was wrong and what was unjustified. Here, many people can say that Lord Krishna had a very strong moon. His moon was Vargotam, his moon was in Rohini Nakshatra, it was in Pushkar Navamsh, in Pushkar Bhaga, but we may have a lot of qualities within us. All of us have a lot of potential. How much do we use the potential? Lord Krishna, it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, anybody can read those chapters on Lord Krishna. He used to get up at Brahma Muhurt, way before sunrise. He used to meditate, he used to do yoga, and he used to also do Havan and Yag on a everyday regular basis. It is said that he looked young, he looked perpetually like an 18-year-old, even till the end of the Mahabharata, when he was in his 90s. So we need to understand that there are certain practices that we can all do, and doing these practices brings about a stability, a detachment in your mind, which will help you live in the world in a much better manner. It will help you gain a lot of comforts in life, and yet be on a very righteous path. There are a lot of things in life that happen to us. It happens to everybody. It may be untowards, but getting the courage to face it with equanimity is something that moon had to learn from Lord Krishna, and that moon becomes a better moon, a brighter moon, making us a happier person. Because at the end, I can only say, the moon, as they say, is Chandrama Manso Jataka. That means the moon is a reflection of your mind, your heart, and your feelings. So the more the mind is stable, the more the mind is enriched, the stable is your life, and more enriched is your life. With that, do leave a comment, do leave a subscription, and till we meet again with a new planet, stay tuned to this channel. Thank you.